Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Neck Up Live. My name is Jeff Ramey with my co-host, Eugene Collins, and we have the pleasure of having two Portsmouth graduates, former quarterbacks and multi-sport athletes from Portsmouth High School. In the blue shirt is Drew Rowe, and in the gray shirt outside, joy the sunshine, is Tyler Duncan. So welcome to the show, guys.
I appreciate you guys having us.
So first of all, I just want to say Drew Rowe was a 2022 graduate of Portsmouth High School. All-state quarterback, 3-year starter, like I said, multi-sport athlete. Tyler Duncan was a 2023 graduate. I don't know how he was only honorable mention, but he was an honorable mention all-state quarterback and all-state baseball player at Portsmouth High School. So both of you, at some point, will be in the PHS Athletic Hall of Fame. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So, Drew, I want to start out. You were an undersized player. That's no secret. And you were handed the keys to the Portsmouth Trojans football team as the starting quarterback as a sophomore. So I want to know, how did you handle being undersized? Was that a motivating factor for you? Did you have a chip on your shoulder? And how did you handle the pressure of being the quarterback at such a young age of the Portsmouth Trojans?
It was always a dream of mine to play quarterback, especially at the varsity level. My freshman year, playing on JV, I knew I wanted to get to that next level. So that was kind of my driving force of trying to handle the pressure of it. We had a QB battle going into my sophomore year, and that kind of kept everything motivated to allow me to keep pushing myself to become better. As far as being undersized, it does kind of leave a chip on your shoulder because people don't really look at you the same. People always looked at me being small and maybe not as quick as some of the other guys on the field. So I think that just made me work harder. It made me kind of focus more on the little things to be able to get that advantage to hang with maybe someone who's faster, bigger, stronger. But as far as playing with it, I just kind of tried to use other attributes that I had. So getting out of the pocket, things like that, and allowing me to be an athlete in the field more than just a standard quarterback.
Right. So, Tyler, you had to sit behind this guy for 3 years.
Yeah, I did.
And we've talked a little bit off the air. Yeah, how did you handle that situation? You guys are great friends. And we have similar athletes, the same thing, good friends, but competing against each other. You know, how did you handle that and still maintain your friendship?
Well, that QB battle he's talking about, his sophomore season, was with my brother. So, at the time you'd think, like, man, these guys must really dislike each other. But, I was with Drew in my 7th grade year when he was an 8th grader. And that's when me and him really started to connect. Like, we didn't know each other when I first got there. We were just always the two quarterbacks that were viewed at a little higher level. We hold ourselves to a higher standard. But, Drew won that QB battle versus my brother, and it was rightfully so because, you guys saw what he was able to do on the field. And I'll boldly state it. He's the greatest Portsmouth quarterback of all time, and I fully believe that, and that's a really bold statement because there's been some great QBs that have walked through Portsmouth and played, and I don't want to offend anyone when I say that. That's just my belief. But, no, I honestly think it was a blessing in disguise for me. I was little as well. I was taller, so you'd think like, you're not little. You're 5'11", 6 foot. But I weighed 120 pounds my freshman year. Wow. So, would I have been ready to play my sophomore, junior season? Probably not. And if, he wasn't ahead of me and I had to start my junior season, and if that went haywire, then this type of season I had my senior year doesn't happen. And so I played JV football as a junior, and it's viewed as a mockery for so many people because, it is hard to show yourself up in school and realize, like, wow, I'm a junior. That's usually when you got to start flipping the switch. Playing JV, but every rep I took got me prepared, and I knew if I ever had to go in and replace Drew, that I would be ready, that I had confidence to be ready. So I think it was really important. Me and Drew are the bestest of friends. So, our QB competition, kind of going back to that, it was a competition. Every day in practice, we'd go out on the field and, we'd try and be better than each other. But Drew could go 0 for 50, and I could go 50 of 50 with 50 touchdowns. And Drew Rowe was our quarterback that year. And he brought the right leadership in that locker room. And I think he helped completely turn our program around.
Well, I think, Drew, I've told you myself that I think you're the best quarterback I've ever seen at Portsmouth.
Well, yeah.
So I don't like to offend anybody either, but I truly believe that, and I've told you that many times.
Guys, it was a blessing for me to coach both of you guys on the basketball side. But talk just a little bit about you guys just carried an edge everywhere you went academically. You guys were stellar students at a school that we get to tag as a bad report card and not a good school academically. Talk about that a little bit.
You want to go ahead, Tyler? You'll go first this time.
Yeah, I'd love to. Portsmouth is a very diverse school, and I think that helps us. It helps me because going down as a future coach or teacher, I've been around people of all sorts, whether you're rich, poor, white, black, and that's the real world right there. So Portsmouth is a firsthand experience of getting the real world, and I think that people that aren't around Portsmouth type people every day, they're set back for their future because you have to work with different people and be able to account for different people's needs or like abilities. So going back to grades, Drew's the same way, especially if you're in a position of almost power, being a quarterback or being the point guard or leadoff hitter, whatever it is, you do have to hold yourself to a higher standard because if you get support from your school system, your coaches, and your teammates, then it just makes your job so much easier.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I'm going to piggyback off like the accountability part. And I credit a lot to especially Eugene because you held us accountable during the basketball season with our study groups and stuff, making sure that we were students first. And I feel like that pushed a lot of kids that didn't realize how important it was. And that held us more accountable. And I thought accountability was such a big part of playing sports at Portsmouth. I thought the coaches that we had through all three sports, baseball, basketball, football, all three, one thing we preached always was accountability. Hold yourself accountable, whether it was on the field or in the classroom or the actions you make outside of the school program. So I think that's kind of what we really focused on. And like he said, holding yourself to a higher standard. Bringing home mediocre or poor grades just wasn't in the playing cards for us, and that's how we treated it. So we had to focus on that first and then handle whatever we had to on the field.
Well, and I think also what you guys done, it became contagious. So, Drew, not only were you a 4.0 student, but so was Amari Johnson. So was who else am I missing that was in your class?
Donovan.
Carr.
I had the privilege of coaching 4 kids on the basketball court that all were 4.0 students and all right there, 1, 2, 3 in your class. And so, academics became the cool thing for everybody else to do because you guys set the bar and it just become contagious.
And what I'm thinking about is culture. I think when Gene came in as a head basketball coach, he kind of got the culture back, the winning culture. I think, AD, Tyler's dad came in, and then Bruce changed the culture. AD again in baseball changed the culture. But you guys are instrumental in changing the whole culture of Portsmouth athletics. So tell me a little bit about that. You've talked about it a little bit when you answered about academics. And how important do you think culture is in success of a program?
I think it's huge. Growing up, especially with the football team, watching them kind of be like some years up and down, and then sometimes it just didn't look like we wanted to be out there. So when we got up there and then Coach Cobb took over my freshman year, you could kind of feel he wanted to go in a different direction with it. Mm-hmm. And I think it kind of piggybacks off when AD took it over, and he started to get that shift in that culture, and we started to get more people to buy in a little bit. And that was kind of our main goal coming in, because my class was the first class with Coach Cobb, and he always preached about like accountability. Once again, accountability was big for him as well, and kind of shifting that culture to not expecting to lose a game, but almost expecting to win every single one of them, regardless of the matchup. So that's we trusted our work. We knew we put in enough work for it, so we just had to go out there and compete and then hold ourselves to that higher standard like we were talking about. Is when we walk out there, we know we got, like in the stands, we got the whole city of Portsmouth behind us ready to root for us. So we need to go out there and perform and not let those people down.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't think you can win, you're obviously not going to. So, having a good culture and a good team camaraderie, it gives your team hope, and that's really all you need. If you gave Drew Rowe a chance when he was a 5'6", however tall he was, 150-pound QB, you gave him a chance his sophomore year, and he proved it. He proved he can go out there and play. So that right there, I think that's the defining moment in Portsmouth football the last few years. Just showing like, wow, if I get thrown in there, I can do the same thing. Build that culture, and it all comes with your habits. If you make good habits when you're practicing or in the classroom, holding yourself accountable, just the same things, what we keep saying, it really is that important. If you hold yourself to a high standard, you will go out there and do better than if you think, I don't know if I can do this. Because there's already going to be people doubting you and your success of like, he won't be able to do it. Drew heard it. I heard it. They don't want to see you go out there and succeed. So, I mean, if you just hold yourself to a high standard and you make goals for yourself, and if you can match those goals with your habits, then I think the sky's the limit.
One thing that I just kind of triggered my memory, and I remember this specifically. Drew Rowe's the starting quarterback. Tyler Duncan is on the sideline, the backup with a clipboard. And I remember seeing Tyler cheer harder than anybody for Drew Rowe. I remember Bo Hammond and Amari Johnson sharing time in the backfield and giving each other high fives as they're coming off the field. And that's developed by culture, camaraderie, and at the end of the day, love for one another, And you could see it on the field with the teams you guys played on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we really tried to push like the brotherhood idea of a team. We enjoyed being together, and I remember the COVID year, which was my junior year and Tyler's sophomore year. We had a pretty rough season. We were pretty dysfunctional as a team. And one memory that really sticks with me during that season is we had a practice, and it was later in the year. It was getting cold, and it was rainy. And we were sitting outside the locker room, and we all met up as a team at the 50, just goofing off, having a good time, enjoying each other's presence for a little bit. It kind of took the pressure off from the season. And I think that was kind of the setting point for what would happen next year when we had our good year, is we kind of took the pressure off of it and didn't treat it like a job anymore. It was football. It was fun. So that was a big part. We loved being around each other. And we didn't really look at grade level either. So like the younger guys were hanging out with us just the same as the older guys were.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to add to that. It's a little off topic, but I think the biggest thing about that is also senior leadership. That team was rough, and I messed with my brother because that was his senior class. I mess with him all the time. Like, how do you get 2-7 and lose to teams that we should be beating? But I think I give them a lot of credit because instead of putting the nail in the coffin like we give up, they kept everything positive. They try to show up with a smile on their face and get better the next day. And, that's something that as a senior, I remember, like, I was always kind of goofy in practice. Like, I take my business serious, but, after offense, I'm kind of done. I don't do anything defensively. So I would go spend some time with freshmen or sophomores and just try and make them feel comfortable because, that's what the seniors did for me. So I think it's important to really pass that down. And if you keep passing that down, then you're going to have a good tradition and the culture is going to be very positive for your school.
Yeah. So another topic, you guys both dealt with injuries at different points. A lot of people don't know, Tyler, your senior year, you were dealing with a collarbone injury. Is that correct? And trying to keep it quiet. And I know Drew. So, we have athletes that are one play away from being injured. I've dealt with some injuries when I played, and it was very draining on me mentally and emotionally. How did you guys deal with those injuries? And how did it affect you from a mental and emotional standpoint?
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, so to kind of give a quick background, after sitting behind the best quarterback in Portsmouth history for 3 years, now it's they throw it on me. I got to get the job done as a senior. And I remember, Gene, Jeff, you guys know it. You guys probably had to hear it, how bad I was going to be, how I would never live or amount to anything like Drew. And, me and Drew had completely different play styles. But, I did view that as a lot of disrespect because, I'm a junior playing JV football. And, I dominated JV football. You should. If you get a chance to play as an upperclassman, you should dominate and show that you're ready to play. So I did. And, I finally get my chance. And, instead of the community really backing me, now I had my fair share of supporters, but, I felt almost disrespected. And I remember I did have a chip on my shoulder wanting to prove people wrong that I can go out there and play. And it was our first scrimmage. And, obviously the team comes first. I'm a team player. I wasn't going to let my selfish desires of me going out there and showing what I can do, because I had great teammates that, really helped my senior year. But that first scrimmage game, I fractured my collarbone on the second series. And I ran over to the sideline. I knew it because I did it in junior high. I ran over. Coach called me. I said, I just broke my collarbone. I was able to finish that half. I could still throw it. My arm slot was lower. And I didn't look real good. And I remember the backlash after that game. And, that did wear on me mentally, because I had a goal of, I want to show these guys that I can play. And then all of a sudden, there we go. And then instead of me pouting about it and feeling sorry for myself, my dad actually the next morning took me down to the field. I'm like, what are we doing? And he gets a football. He starts throwing with me. 5 yards. 10 yards. 15. 20. And that 20 was my max. And once I got to 20, he said, you're good to go. You're good. I'm like, what do you mean I'm good? He's like, you're good to go for Thursday. Play the game on Thursday the next week. So, just don't give up on yourself and just keep pushing no matter what injuries you're facing, because, they really can take a toll on you, not just physically, but really mentally, especially when you have goals that you want to achieve. So just never give up, really. Just always push for your goals no matter what they are.
Tyler, I can remember, I can't remember what game it was, but after one of your games, your senior year, I just randomly sent you a text, and it was kind of crazy. I was sharing this with Jeff. One text turned into two, and I think we text back and forth, excuse me, for maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah, I remember that night.
Just talking about working through injuries and keeping your head up and not worrying about, what people were saying. And, you were able to share some things with me in that text that you didn't share with other people. But I will always remember that, that text message you had. And then, people didn't realize you were playing hurt. And so, until you were able to heal up and then get approval to be able to run, everybody was kind of like, he can't throw, he won't run, not understanding, that they had to protect you until you got healed. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I really do remember that talk. I think I was taking a really long bath that night. I don't know if that's a little off topic, but I just remember, that meant a lot to me because nobody knew except my household, and maybe Drew. I think I told Drew.
Yeah.
But nobody knew except my household what was wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't want it out there, because if that gets out there, then teams are going to say, hey, give him a nice hit up top and he's going to be done.
Right.
But, that really did mean a lot to me, because I never shared what was going on with me with anyone else.
Right.
So being able to kind of let my feelings out to you that night, that was really special to me. Mm-hmm. And it shows the type of person. You guys are the best of the best. If you look at the back of your guys' book, you can see all your guys' achievements. So they speak for themselves. That really meant a lot to me to have someone like you. You were my head basketball coach for 4 years.
Yeah.
To show that you cared about me that much, while it's still football season, that really showed the type of person that you were and how much you cared about me. Mm-hmm. But I'll never forget that. Senior year was awesome, but it was the biggest relief to get over with, just because of all the talk and all the negative stuff. So that's why I think what you guys are doing with this book and this journal, it's important, because I know there's other athletes, young athletes like me, that feel like, why am I not getting a chance? Or why am I not getting a shot? You know, are you doing the right things? Are you practicing the right way? Treating your body the right way? You know, everything really goes into it. So, but that meant a lot to me. Glad we got out there with a successful season, but it was some sort of relief to be over with it, for sure.
Well, and I think also, you know, what it says is to to the young guy who's thinks he maybe should be playing and he's not playing, to, you know, continue to work, you know, and we talk about that in the book. You know, you got to continue to work while you wait, and you work while you waited your turn. And then when your turn came, not only did you overcome all the naysayers and all of that, but not you overcome the injury. And then at the end of the day, you put up more passing numbers than anybody in the history of the school. You know, what a testament to your faith and your patience and understanding how the process work. And I got to believe that, you know, two great parents like you have, your dad being a coach, your uncle being a coach, and Bruce Cobb, you know, being your head coach, and you trusting the process had all to do with that.
Absolutely, it did.
Before we go on, I just want to remind our audience how good of a quarterback Tyler Duncan was. He completed 221 out of 334 passes. That's right around 2/3 at least. 2,654 passing yards, 27 passing touchdowns with only 5 interceptions, 346 rushing yards with an additional 7 touchdowns, for a total of 34 touchdowns and 3,000 all-purpose yards. And again, let's not forget he was injured half the year. So as good as Drew Rowe was, and Tyler Duncan was a pretty daggone good quarterback, wasn't he? And I want to share, we're texting back and forth. You know, Tyler could have transferred. You know, a lot of guys take the path of least resistance. And he sent a text, you know, basically saying 1,000% believe so that Drew Rowe should have been the starting quarterback. I felt ready as a junior, but to be fair, I was a 5'10", 135 pounds, and I could have transferred and started at another school, but my senior year wouldn't have been possible if I took that route. And I see a lot of kids taking that route, and I'm not saying there's not a time for it sometimes, but we're doing it way too often, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So
I agree.
But I just want to make sure people know how good of a quarterback Tyler Duncan was, and we got 2 of the best to ever play the position at Portsmouth High School right here in front of us.
Appreciate that, guys.
So you guys were both multi-sport athletes. We see a culture environment where people are starting to specialize at a young age. What's your thoughts on specializing, and what do you think about the importance of playing all sports? Did each sport help you in the other? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think multi-sport athletes that's the way I always grew up thinking, that it was the most useful to play multiple sports. And aside from all the just being with your buddies, playing different sports you love, I think the main thing comes down to different muscle groups are being trained while you're playing these different sports. That's a huge part. Of course, you can train in the off season and you can do all this stuff. You can do everything right and it still come out wrong in that one season. So I think a big thing for me was playing 3 different sports really helped me in 3 different areas. Like by the end of football season, I was beat up, ready to move on. And then basketball, I felt like I was in the best shape of my life. After I finished basketball season, I feel like I could run a 10K and be fine. So training those muscle groups, football was always a full body. Everything was hurt all the time. Everything was sore. And then basketball, I just felt like the cardio of it really helped me exceed and push myself to keep getting better through baseball and then into the off season of football. I'm not as big of a fan as focusing on one sport in high school because I feel like if something goes wrong and you miss that opportunity to play at the next level, like most guys plan to when they do that, you miss out on, if you're a 3-sport athlete that you gave up 2 sports on, then you lose 3 or 2 years of those 2 sports not playing with your guys that you grew up with. So I don't think it's as harmful as people think going out and playing a different sport. I feel like more injuries occur if you play a single sport because of the less training you do get. But I would preach kids play as many sports as possible. Get out there and play as much as possible. You're going to be a better athlete because of it. And I think it will help you succeed in the sport you really want to focus on.
And Drew, you are majoring in physical therapy, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're probably talking a little bit as a physical therapist, future physical therapist, So, Tyler, you have anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, kind of piggybacking what he said, but if you do play sports at the next level, most of the time, I'm sure you guys have both heard it, a coach is going to come in and say, what other sports do they play? They want to see how you perform. So let's say, Coach Collins, I remember there was a few football players that had come out and, they were never going to play basketball for you, but, are they good teammates? You get to see how good of a teammate someone may be from these other sports.
Right.
And, that's a next level answer. But just the main thing, like when I look back at sports, I don't dream about, man, I was so good at doing that or so good at doing that. I just made so many connections with my coaches, even
Right.
teammates, friends, lifelong friends, that it's just so important. And I think the more that you're involved with, the better. And that also helps you socially. Like I was always a little socially awkward, and I still am a little bit, but, playing sports kind of let something out of me that I didn't know I had. I didn't know I had a mean side or a passive side, whatever it might be. You get to reveal a little bit about your character. And the main thing is, being a great teammate, that's just what so many people say. And it's, if you can be a great teammate, then I think you can go as far as you want in life.
Absolutely.
So both you guys, no doubt about it, could have went and played at the next level. Drew probably could have played college football or college baseball. Tyler could have played college football or college baseball, but you chose not to. Can you tell us a little bit about, your career, the finality of your career, how you handled transitioning from being a star athlete to life? And that's not an easy transition, but how did you guys handle that? And maybe give us some insight on that.
It was definitely difficult at first, giving it up. So right after football was done, I was rehabbing from an ACL injury at the time, and in my head during my rehab, I figured I was done. I didn't think I really I didn't want to chase it, and I didn't think I would have the chance with the time frame and being able to get out there in the off season and prove why I should play. And money was a big thing for me too, is I didn't want to spend a bunch of money and then not be ready at the next level. So that kind of shied me away from it. And I saw my opportunity at Shawnee State to be able to start my career and do something that I loved. So I went ahead and went for that. And that really got me going at first, but it was hard to adapt to, especially being a little older than Tyler and talking to him every day, having him, he's practicing every day. He's still being an athlete. And that kind of bothered me that first year, kind of adapting to being an adult and moving to that next step of I got to work or I got to go to college classes now. That was different, but I think I was ready to be done with it. I think I'm glad I left it where I left it during my football career. I'm glad I didn't stretch it and kind of ruin the memories I had of it. But after I got adapted to it, I think I'm glad I hung it up and let it be.
For me, I was ready to be done. I wouldn't have thought that. Like my junior season, I was a pretty good baseball player. I was thinking like, man, I can go play college baseball. But it is a different animal. And I think really after that senior year of football, after another injury piled up and hearing all the negative stuff, that kind of pushed me past my limit. And I think that happens with a lot of people. I think they just mentally are done with it at a certain point. And that's what happened to me. I was mentally done with it. I wanted no part to play at the next level for sports, which it was sad because, I always loved playing and being with teammates and friends, but, college is different. You have to really be geared in. If you're playing a college sport, it's almost like a second job for you. And if you're not willing to make that commitment, then you're not going to last in college playing.
Well, the one thing that I'm proud of both of you guys, and I constantly preach this to you guys. You guys play for me, and you start talking about college, and I always said, make sure you can pay for where you're going. That was my thing. Go to school where your checkbook will allow you to, because at the end of the day, you want a family, and you want to be able to pay for a house and have money to live, and you don't want to be chasing student loans the rest of your life if you don't have to. So I'm glad you guys are smart enough to listen to that speech that I give you guys every year.
Guys, Tyler, you've had a chance to look at our journal, and
Yep.
Looking back and some of the things we talked about is manage your time wisely, using your time, good habits, getting in good routines, hanging out with the right people, make good choices. Can you guys talk about that and the importance of that and your success? And did you guys individually, did you deal with any performance anxiety, anything like that as when you were playing?
I'd say definitely during, especially that sophomore year of football and basketball as well. Being younger, that was definitely it always got my heart racing playing one of those games, especially being with the older guys, because not so much of like embarrassment of being in front of the crowd or playing bad. I just didn't want to let those guys down around me, especially being a young guy on the field. These guys may have waited 2, 3, 4 years to play in this moment. And now I'm out there as a sophomore, and if I screw up, I ruin their last year. So that kind of got me at first. But during my last 2 years, I think that kind of went away. I got used to that and started to trust my ability a little more. Playing with kind of pushing like the anxiety of playing away just comes with time. It came with a lot of reps for me. You get in the game, and one thing we always preached, and me and Tyler always talked about it, is you got to get the first snap out of the way in football. As soon as you get the first snap out the way, you're good. You got to get the first one out, and then you're ready to go. So that was one of our key things, and I think we both like to run the ball the first play of the game and get our feet under us a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of funny that he mentions like anxiety a little bit and how to calm yourself down. My job on Friday night is sometimes they'd put me on a headset for Drew. I think it was my junior, maybe even junior and sophomore year. They'd put me on a headset for Drew, and Coach Sturgill was the one. He'd always say, "Hey, if he's losing his crap down there, you have to be the one to make sure he's good." And I was like, and on game day, Drew was a different animal. Me and him were buddies, but I couldn't be too joking or relaxed with him because he's got a job to do, and here I am just watching his every move, just trying to copy him. So my life was a lot easier than his on those game days. But going back to what you said with those habits, I have some bad habits. Like right now, I'm drinking a pop, and on game days, I would cramp. So like maybe if I didn't drink 8 to 10 pops a day, maybe I wouldn't cramp. But it is important to take care of yourself. If you're putting the right stuff in your body and just mentally preparing yourself to go play a game or even practice, I always try to be my best at a practice. Yeah, I could be a little more laid back and a little goofy at times. But, if you can bring it every single day, you're not only going to make yourself better, but you're going to make your teammates better. And that was kind of the connection. So when you say competition for me and Drew, it wasn't really a competition like, man, if I do good today, I'm taking his spot. That wasn't my mentality ever. I don't care what he did. He was my quarterback, and I'll never forget him getting injured his senior year. Week 10, we're playing Ironton. We're up, I think, 9. I don't know the exact score. It was like 9-7 at half. And Drew got hurt. That's when he blew his ACL that game, week 10. And I had to go in the second half. And we ended up, all I'm going to say is we ended up losing 36-9. So that was hard for me. But the first person there for me was Drew saying, man, you did a good job. You did fine. This wasn't why we lost. And then the next week, we're playing a playoff game versus Zane Trace. And I remember we were beating him pretty well, but he went down. His knee gave out on him again. And I think if we didn't get a kickoff return, I would have had to go in. And who knows if they would have rode with me or said, hey, the guy that just tore his ACL again, come out and play the second half. But we got a kick return, and Drew said, no, you're not going out. I got this. It was his year. And for him to do that, it showed who he really was. Because, even my junior year, I didn't want to go out there in a first-round playoff game. I really didn't. That was him. It was his team, and he took the responsibility. And then the next week versus Ironton, I think we ended up losing 17-6. This was the week 2 of the playoffs. And, it happened again. He kept playing with a torn ACL. And I think I ended up taking us on a drive in the second half. It was 10-6. And we got the ball back with like maybe 5 or 6 minutes. And I remember going up to Drew saying, hey, I'm going to win this game for you so that next week you can go out there again and basically tear your ACL again the next week. Because Drew would have started the next week if we would have found a way to beat them. But, I threw an interception, and that's how that year ended. That's how Drew's career kind of ended. So that was a little sad for me. But he was, again, the first person there. Me and him, we cried it out on the 50. And, he was nothing but supportive of me. So that meant a lot to me.
Well, and you know what? Those will always be lasting friendships, because that's what true friends do, is they look out for each other no matter what. And I tell you, you guys are models. You guys are role models for young kids now coming up, because there's going to be somebody else that's going to be in those same shoes you guys are in. It might be this year, it might be 5 years down the road, but somebody's going to remember this conversation, and they're going to remember, you got to take care of each other. Because I tell kids all the time, you don't play sports for the coach. You play sports for your buddies, and you two are examples of why you play sports for each other and not the coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to add, people probably get sick of me saying it, but I think there's 3 things you get from sports: memories. So I want to personally thank you guys for the memories you gave me. I love watching both of you play, compete. You're both 2 of my favorites. The Duncan family is like family to me.
Absolutely.
And Tyler, I did know about the broken collarbone, so I kept my mouth shut. So
I think he did text you. Dad did text you, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So I did know about it. So thank you for the memories. The relationships is the second thing you get from sports. You guys have a tight bond that'll never be broken. You guys are going to be there for each other when you're going through things in life. And the last thing is lessons. And I have no doubt you're going to use the lessons that you learn through sports to be very successful in life. You're well on your way. So, guys, thank you for the memories that you guys gave me and everybody, all the Portsmouth fans, and I just wish you the best of luck in the future. I have no doubt you guys are going to be great. You're going to be great.
Hey, that means a lot. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome, buddy. Anything else? Anybody got anything to add? Or we good?
I think this has been great interviewing you 2 guys. The one thing I wanted to ask Tyler, how's the journal going for you?
It's going well. I have OCD. I like to be able to keep track of myself. It's hard because, again, as I mentioned, I drink a lot of pop, and I'm always dehydrated. So that's something that maybe it can help me break.
Okay.
But no, it's awesome. It's a good way to really keep track with yourself. And coaching junior high football, it's awesome because I don't track their stuff, but I keep a mental note. Maybe if a student, or this can be used for any day life, a student athlete It can be used for anything. If you're just worried about your habits or your goals, or that you have goals and expectations, but they're not coming through, it's a good way to really backtrack on yourself and, again, hold yourself accountable. That's kind of what it does.
Yeah.
You get instant feedback for it. So, I mean, it's a great tool, and it's awesome that you guys are coming up with that and getting it out there.
What do you think?
Well, guys, thank you for coming on the show. Been great. I think you guys have given out a lot of useful information that can help a lot of our young athletes, and that's why we're doing this, to try to help our young athletes not only be better athletes but be better human beings. So, thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us, Joe.
Yeah, thank you for having us, guys.
Take care, guys.
You guys are the best.